From Columbus, Ohio, I'm your host, Robb Dunewood.
And coming out of Philly, it's your girl, Tech Life Steph.
And down in Atlanta, this is Terrance Gaines, aka Brother Tech, aka So what's been going on in the news today?
Mm.
Anything interesting happen? I
Right,
don't know. I
right. It's been a
don't
snow
know.
news day as far as tech is concerned.
So, what was it? 2, 3 weeks ago, we said, okay, we done talking about Elon and Twitter. Bruh just wouldn't let us. It's like we can't. We're a tech show. We can't ignore that this dude just spent $46.5 billion on one of the biggest social media platforms on the planet.
Well, so we can, which goes to the bigger question that we'll get into a little bit later. We can ignore it, but do we want to? Do we really
Yeah.
want to?
Yeah.
Well, and that's the other thing. Like, that's why he does this, because he knows the world won't ignore it. And he's a troll. He's a ginormous man baby that needs attention and has too much time and money on his hands. And so here we are.
So since we're talking about it, I'm just going to do a little bit of an edit here. That's not going to be this where it is. We're going to talk about that first because we already on it. So
Calling audible.
call an audible. So yeah, we just gonna go right into it. So if you have not heard yet, Elon Musk has purchased Twitter. The board, I guess earlier this morning, has approved his offer. And when I first got up, when I first started seeing the news this morning, it was like, okay, the board is seriously thinking about it because he got approved for all the financing that he needs to go buy this company. So I said, so basically, he just pulled the Brinks trucks out in front of Twitter's corporate offices, and the boards looked down like, oh, you was for real, for real. It's like
Hmm.
looking at the amount of
Money
money
talks.
that is it undervalued? Yeah, but they didn't have anybody else that was out there looking to do it. If that were the case, they probably would have went with whoever the highest bidder was. So
So
there's a
Was
lot
it
of aspects
undervalued
to this.
though? Twitter stock price, I think it was an all-time high of around 78 at one point, but they were struggling. And from everything I was listening to on CNBC today, like their next earnings call was probably going to get them down in the 30s per share. So they were struggling. I feel like they were happy to get this and took the
Clearly they
money and
were.
ran with it.
Clearly they were because you also have to think about this is that when it became public knowledge that he was actually going and buying a grip work, because remember this all started from him buying a nine
The
percent stake in
9%.
Twitter.
Yep.
That shot the price up even from where it was. So when they're saying, oh well, the premium that he's paying is not even much more than what the stock price is, it's like, well, yeah, we're not going to base it off of what the stock price is today. Let's look at what the year moving average was. And
Right.
yeah, it was in the 70s less than a year ago. It was there for a hot minute, and then it has dropped precipitously, since that time. So I didn't mean to cut you off, Terrence. You were about to say something.
Well, I was going to say, I guess, to the point that him getting the money to buy Twitter, I feel like that part in and of itself, a lot of people are putting it as Elon Musk is spending his own money to buy Twitter, when in
No.
reality,
Mm-mm.
he
No, no,
just
no.
found some financing, which is no
Right.
different than me and you buying a house. Yeah, sure, I own the house, but technically the bank owns the house because if I
Oh
default,
yeah.
I can't make the payments, something happens, whatever the case may be, the more the bank is like, yeah, we're gonna need that from you. So, of course I'm oversimplifying it, but Elon Musk is not using his own money. He had to go find companies, banks, whomever these investment groups are, who actually are going to put up the money on the strength of who he is. Um,
He is putting in some of his own money.
yeah, no,
Some
absolutely.
of
I
his
got to
own
put
To
down a
money,
down
to
but
payment,
no, but
just like
no,
yeah,
anybody else.
no.
Yeah.
He
yeah,
straight
like
up
I think
used OPP to
Yeah,
get this
7 or
done.
8
Other
billion.
people's
I
pockets.
believe Morgan Stanley is doing the bulk of the financing,
Right.
which also speaks to the privilege of being able to get somebody to put that much money up for a company that, I don't know
Ain't
that
really
Twitter
making
is
money
not
like that.
profitable, but
Right.
they not very profitable. And for somebody, just based on his track record, I don't even know that his own personal business track record is such that I would hand you $23 billion. You know what I mean? So
Which
I don't know.
goes,
It's crazy.
but which kind of goes to my ultimate uh, thing that I was leading to was, can you really, um, we can, we can, we can be mad at Elon Musk for the why he's doing it, but the how, it's like, that's how our society
Yeah.
runs,
Oh, absolutely. He
so
he
it's
he
like,
used the system the way it was intended.
right.
Absolutely.
So if we, are really upset about this, and I'm not saying you're not, I'm not illegitimizing anybody's reason as to why they feel some kind of way about Elon Musk buying Twitter. But if you really, really for real upset about it, we systematically speaking, there's a lot of change that's going to have to take place. So when the next time this rolls around and some dude or female or whomever decides they want to do something this radical, the system is like, hey, that's not how we roll. Right now the system is however you do it. If you want to do it, we're fine with it, right? And until we as a people, as a society, and say, no, we don't like the system, we don't like who's running it, we don't like how things are running it,
I
we need to
feel
do
like
something
though
radical.
I see what you're saying. I definitely get what you're saying. I feel like though, had this been put to an actual shareholder vote, that would have happened. But
Okay.
that did not happen. The board voted to do this.
Gotcha.
And
Okay.
so had each individual shareholder
True.
gotten a say in whether or not this happened, I don't think we would see this happening today.
Right.
I don't
Well,
know. I don't know enough about corporate structure to
so
explain, to be able to explain it but I know that individual shareholders did not get a say in whether or
Right.
not
So,
this happened.
well, here's the thing: individual shareholders, in a way, they do because the board holds so much of the stock that they actually have enough to vote. We're going to do this because they have
Unilaterally.
enough shares to actually say that we're going to do this. If they
Right.
didn't have enough shares to do that, if you remember, they did the poison pill. Was that last
Right.
week? It seems
Last
like
week.
this has been forever, but it's just last week they did the poison pill. So I was like,
Right.
if anybody buys 15%, then any of the board members can go out and they can buy as much as they want, at discounted rates. So I hear people saying a lot of things about this isn't fair. It's like, no, it's not fair. This is what the system is. To me,
Systems
poison
working
pill
like
is
it's
actually
designed.
less fair. When you say, okay, we're going to try to keep this because here is, I was explaining this to somebody earlier today. Here's what Elon Musk does. So I want to take away the fact that as a person, I'm not that big of an Elon Musk fan because I don't like how things are happening at his Tesla factories. That's one of the biggest reasons
Absolutely.
why I'm not an Elon fan or really even a Tesla fan. I think they're awesome cars, but it's like I don't necessarily like how they're being made, how the people that look like me are being treated at the places they're being made. That's another thing. If we take all that away, Elon Musk bought something that was for sale. That's all he did. He bought something that was for sale. And like the argument that I got from the person I was talking to, what do you mean he bought something that was for sale? It's like, well, you know what? They're a publicly traded company. There's nothing that
They're
prevents
always
the
for
three of
sale
us,
to the best price, the highest bidder.
the three of us could have done um, theoretically,
Got together.
exactly what Elon Musk did.
we
If
we
we
could all put 5 on it and bought Twitter.
Yeah, if we could have got 30, 40 Brinks
5
trucks
billion
with
on it.
pallets of $100 bills on it to drive up in front of of Twitter and say, hey, here's $50 billion, can we have the company please? They might have said yes to us too. So from that standpoint, and I'm not stumping for Elon or anything like that. I'm just talking about the system. He purchased something that was for sale. Now, when you move past that to, well, how do people feel about it? Because here's this thing that Twitter is. I think that we can all agree that when it comes to just news, worthy type stuff. Twitter probably, it has a lot of issues, just like other social media platforms have issues, but it is the one that really you have a lot of journalists on. You have a lot of people who are trying to get a message out, that they're able, to get out. So people feel some kind of way because they thought, okay, well, yeah, Twitter was the one that we liked. Well, it just depends on your point of view. It's like, there's a whole lot of folks out there who have just as much say about Twitter. It's like, no, I don't like how Twitter was doing the things that they do. It's like my favorite person was banned for life on this platform. I don't like Twitter. So that door, it revolves and it swings both ways.
Right.
I'm sorry.
But I think
I
the
said
thing,
I was just
they tweeted
comment
that.
on your thing. You said I don't like how Twitter runs things. They tweeted.
They tweeted it.
Yeah.
The thing is, though, the thing that I don't necessarily know is getting enough discussion. Everybody's hopping on this free speech bandwagon that is just a ridiculous argument. I think, and the potential, and I don't even think it's potential at this point. It's going to happen. The misinformation that we are going to see proliferate on that platform now, that this free speech absolutist, as Elon Musk calls himself, is going to allow to happen, is dangerous, based on how big the platform is, how many people are on there, how many people don't do the critical thinking required to vet information and verify information. Like, he's talking about, oh, democracy dies without free speech. Democracy dies when one person controls the flow of information. That's when democracy dies. And that's what we have right now. That's exactly what happened right now. We got one dude that is basically going to be saying yes or no to what we see on this platform. And,
so are we
and
assuming
the fact that people aren't, like screaming at the top of their lungs about this is just baffling to me.
Well, I guess that are we assuming that Twitter is going to be ran dramatically different than how it's run now, in the sense that there will be no boards, there will be no oversight committee, there will be
it's a privately held company.
It's private in the sense that there's no shares being traded, but as structurally, organizationally, how Twitter is run.
What do you think he's going to put people in there that disagree with him?
Well, no, but he may be, as a owner, a person that has say, but at the levels to where misinformation is, dealt with. In my opinion, I don't think misinformation was all that dealt with all that well on Twitter now. Now, outside of some major people like Donald Trump,
but it can get a lot worse.
Right.
You know what I mean? And the way it seems like it's happening is that, Donald Trump was removed from the platform because he was accused of inciting January 6th. Right. What happens when Donald Trump does not get removed from the next Donald Trump, I'll say, does not get removed from the platform and continues to incite that same type of violence and different things like that? How many people had to die because they was drinking bleach, trying to get rid of COVID, taking that as gospel, and there was nobody, and there may not be anybody there to, say, hey, wait a minute, this is misinformation. Oh, but it's free speech. People can say what they want to say. You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. Like we should really be a lot more worried about this than I think we are right now.
Right. And I just think that, I think that, and I didn't mean to cut you off, Rob, but I think we as a people, I think that's our job, regardless of who owns Twitter and who is on. I mean, I don't think we should be looking at Twitter or whomever's running Twitter, whether it be this board, whether it be Elon Musk or whomever. We should be challenging that information. Again, sure, we want to make sure we have people in place or whatever. But again, going back to my comment before, it's like Twitter is a free service, and the community is what makes the service the service. And I think we as a society should, theoretically, I know it's not impossible in practice. I know, but that just goes back to, not fair. Now, I don't want to say it's not fair, but I think we should hold equal as much, not responsibility, but ownership in what Twitter is, and not say, hey, you one guy do whatever. You know what I'm saying?
In a perfect
world. Here's the other part of this. I just, as I said, I have to put this in two buckets. There's the bucket that I don't really like Elon, but if this was someone who I liked, would I feel differently about it?
I wouldn't.
And
If this
the
was,
way I
I don't
feel
know why,
about this
right?
is that it was a company that was for sale. Someone got the money together to say, hey, I'm gonna give you $46.5 billion. Can I have a company? And they said, yeah, we cool with that. That's literally, what is happening. So if we as the public have put so much into this thing that we don't own, because I would venture to say that even though it was a publicly traded company, overwhelmingly most people didn't have any ownership stake in Twitter. And when you go in, because if they did, Twitter might actually be run a little bit better. Twitter has not been run effectively. When you
Ever,
think about the reach that it has,
ever,
it's never really been that
ever.
thing. It's like the dude that started it, it was kind of cool when he started it, and he went off and did other stuff, and it got so bad, it's like, okay, I really don't want to have to go back, but I'm going to, because this thing that talking about Jack Dorsey, let me run back over here real quick and see if I can't just get it, to where it's going to be stable. And then he's done exited for the second time. So there's a lot of things that have to be fixed at Twitter. And if you would have asked me 6 months ago, what can Twitter do to actually become a better company? Go private. Probably the first thing would have come off of my mind, just because I follow this stuff. I've seen a lot of other people say the same thing. It's a big ship. They can only make so many just drastic changes as a publicly traded company, because one of the things that Twitter has to worry about, as does Facebook, and they do worry about this. They lobby to keep this from happening. They don't want to get regulated by the government. So, but now that it is a private company, those things get a little bit more lax. They'll have a little bit more agility to get things right.
We'll see though, because we're going to
We'll
talk
see.
about the new Data Services Act over in the EU that may have an effect on all of this going forward. We'll get to that a little bit later. So
Yeah, we'll
we'll
get to
see.
that in a second. That's a nice tease, but
Mhm.
just wrapping this point up. It's like, so here's what I don't believe that Elon Musk is. I don't think he's an idiot. I don't think he is a person that doesn't have a clue as to how this might work. And I do know this: billionaires tend to like their billions of dollars. He doesn't want to lose on this. Now, once again, he is using OPP, so it's like, if he loses, it's like, hey, that ain't my money, that's their money.
I
Let
mean,
go to them
and he's
investors for
already
that.
said he's not interested in making money though. He understands
Um,
that this might not work, and he might not make any money, but he's such a free speech
mhm.
champion that he wants to see this happen. I mean, he's gone on record as to say this wasn't a revenue generating, that wasn't his primary mover in making this decision, was because he felt like he could turn this company around and make billions of dollars and whatever. I just believe he's being
Mhm.
like hella disingenuous about the free speech soapbox
Oh
he's
yeah,
standing
that
on.
that part I
Uh,
will agree with. He's
yeah,
doing this
yeah, just
because he's a free
hella
speech warrior.
disingenuous.
No,
Um,
this
I,
is
I
why.
I feel like this got put in place back in 2018 when that SEC stuff went down, and somebody told him no, and he was like, "I'll show you." And
Oh,
he's playing chess, not checkers, and has bided his time. And this is the way he's getting his get back on the SEC and Twitter
that's what
for
I agree.
silencing him, 4 or 5 years ago. Honestly,
Um,
that's what I believe. I believe he's that petty. I believe he holds that much of a grudge. And when you're talking about, but would he spend $46 billion? Well, to him, that's not even, that's in the noise. Number one, half of it ain't even his money, and billions are like hundreds to us, to him.
right.
So
Yeah.
it's not like he's really spending a lot of money in his mind. So this whole thing stinks. It just
Yeah,
does to me.
that's the
This whole
part
thing just stinks.
that it gets at a lot of folks crawl. A good friend of mine, he actually said, I just, the free speech stuff. And, this person said, if he would have just said, why am I buying Twitter? Because I can. And I feel
Because I
like it.
can. Right.
If he would have said that, it's like people would still be up in arms with it. But at least that's
They would
the
probably respect him
honest
more.
answer.
I
Why did he
might
buy
respect him
Twitter?
more.
Because he could. Because he could, and he wanted to. The thing is, he's not the only person. I can think off the top of my head of people who could do what Elon did. Granted, he is the richest person in the world, but there are other folks who could have come up with that same financing that
Absolutely.
he came up with that could have done this. They just, not what I want to do. When you first heard 2 weeks ago that this is what he was, he was launching this campaign to go get Twitter, there could have been other companies that come in and said, or other benefactors that will come in and say, okay, we're going to buy it. We think that Twitter can go here, and instead of 46, we're going to offer 54. They could have done something different. They didn't. The market, basically, you are what the market says you're worth.
I will say though, there's still a chance. I don't think I'm holding out any hope for it, but there's a back out clause from what I understand,
Mhm.
and a breakup fee or whatever. There's a time limit. There's a time frame in which somebody else can come in and make a better offer. And then there's like a breakup fee that he would get if his deal fell through. So, Bezos, Gates, somebody like
They ain't
save us,
messing with
help
it.
us, Obi-Wan. You're our only hope. Like, save us.